Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where Destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy!
I'm going to start off with my introductory visualization exercise, as I always do. We've tried to cut this segment from the podcast before. The fans have not wanted it. They spent time away from our podcast. We felt the pain. We saw the numbers go down, and now we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Here we go. I'm going to go into it. If you're listening out there, please just stop what you're doing. Close your eyes. If you're driving, I recommend pulling over.
Come what may.
And let's set the mood. Let's go back, and here we go. It's 2008, and you're on a date with your sweet little mom. You're at the local cinema, and you manage to talk her out of seeing 7 Pounds for the 100th time, mainly because the scene at the end with Woody Harrelson and the choir always makes you cry. Instead, you persuade her to see a movie with the guy from Star Wars, as he rekindles an old flame and takes you on an action-packed ride visiting ancient archaeological sites. No, I'm not talking about Jumper starring Hayden Christensen and Samuel L. Jackson. I am talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And here, ready to chat all things Crystal Skull, is Tyler Beck up in Salt Lake City.
Yes, hello, I am here.
We are missing our third part, Ben. He is absent. He may have been dissolved by aliens. We don't know where he is.
There's no way to know. They cover their tracks so well.
We just watched it happen, from a distance, and then we just moved on. But Ben is absent. He's going to be editing this podcast. So hi, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
Yeah, we're missing him today. We are Three Films and a Podcast. We're three folks challenging each other and all of you to watch movies you've never seen before and to join our movie club. You can find us anywhere you find pods. You're obviously listening to us right now. And while you're here, go ahead and whip those like and subscribe buttons. But tonight, we are excited to have a returning guest. He's a member of our clubhouse, and he's also has a standing vocal commitment to rejoin us at some point when we cover Mars Needs Moms. And that is Patrick Cotnoir.
He might not remember, but we do.
Listen, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, yes, I absolutely remember that. And you know what? I'm sticking with it.
I'm not going to forget it.
We'll gladly rewatch Mars Needs Moms whenever I need to.
Patrick's working on the most eclectic movie collection as far as our guests are concerned.
That's right.
Because last time was Total Recall, right?
That's right. Yes.
That's right. I mean, it's all space. It's all aliens,
Yeah,
it's not totally out of
We're
left
sensing
field.
a theme here.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Patrick, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you or plug? Do you have anything to plug tonight?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a weird time to be plugging social media just because who knows how long stuff will be around. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter for now at Patrick Cotnoir, PatrickCottnoir, or on Instagram, I'm just Cotnoir. As far as plugging stuff, there's George Lucas Talk Show, which is the talk show I produce with Connor Ratliff and Griffin Newman. It's all up on YouTube. You can find it there, and we occasionally do live shows around the country or live streams. That's about it, I think. That's the important stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
Especially, I mean, given your proximity to the world of George Lucas, it is great to have you on for this picture. We're at the midterm of our legacy sequels. We've covered The Color of Money, which is the sequel to The Hustler.
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, is a sequel to an existing trilogy, the Indiana Jones movies. This came out in 2008. It returned Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, the great triad, to give us this adventure. And the reason I chose this, because, I mean, there's a lot of choices of legacy sequels, and it was interesting because Ben, and he's not here to comment on this, he hasn't seen any Indiana Jones movies.
Whoa.
I was so excited to talk to him about that. And just
Is that why he's not here?
I think so.
Yeah, that might be. Maybe that's the That's the reason. But
Yeah.
he
blows
asked,
me away.
he's like,
This is his first entry.
well, he's like, should I watch the other Indiana Jones movies first? I'm like, no, just
Yeah, I mean,
just watch
yeah,
this one. He'll get there. He'll get there.
we'll get there.
But
the
maybe
reason
maybe he watches this one and goes, "Holy shit, that movie ruled." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's possible. There is a possibility.
Sometimes when it's the first one that you see, like if you see some weird movie in the middle of a franchise and you're like, "Oh no, number 7, Halloween 7 is always my favorite Halloween." You know, it could be
number
that.
4 is his favorite. He's like, yeah, none of them have topped Crystal Skull. I'm sorry. So I chose this one because there's I mean, it's not going to be funny to anyone else, but I'm going to share it anyways. In 2008, the girl I was dating at the time, I was very excited for this Legacy sequel to come out. I was a big Indiana Jones fan, big George Lucas fan, obviously a big Steven Spielberg fan because everyone is.
Sure.
So I was very excited for this movie, and so I had it on my calendar. We were going to go date night. We were going to go see it. She had just moved down to college, just about 30 minutes away. And like her first week in college, before we go on the date to see this movie, she goes out with just like a random group of people to see this movie. And I took that personally.
As you should.
I take that personally for you.
It could have ended the relationship. But this does have a happy ending. We're married now, so it's okay. It worked out.
What a twist that I did not see coming.
Hey,
you didn't.
This is the Crystal Skull episode. You know, anything goes here.
Now, she? I'm sorry to bust in. I have so many questions.
Please.
Did she rewatch this with you when you watched it for this?
No.
Well,
she did.
Did she watch it 2 days before?
No, she should have.
With a group.
Yeah, I should have been like, yeah. She meets up with some randos.
Yeah, she should have watched it with your kids and left you out of the picture.
I know. Yeah, great little tidbit there. Some personal Matt history there with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I want to hear your guys's, first impressions, your experience with this movie. Patrick, I'd love to hear where in your life you crossed paths with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I crossed paths with it probably the same weekend you did, 2008. I saw it in the theater.
With his wife?
Yeah, with your wife. It was actually, she said, I'm going in a few days again with this boy I'm seeing. I'll never marry him. That's what she said. No, I saw it with my parents and my grandparents and my sister. I don't think my sister had ever seen an Indiana Jones movie. I don't think anyone else in the family had seen them since they came out, probably. I love them. Because I must have seen them on VHS, but I definitely, when they came out on DVD, I used to watch them a lot. And at the time, I remember, I think I was probably here's what I'll say. I don't know if you guys like this movie or not. Do you want me to save and say if I like it or not?
No, by all means.
Yeah, okay. Let it all out.
Okay. At the time, I think I listened to other people too much. And everyone was like, this movie's bad. So I was like, well, that movie's bad. Of course it's bad. And now I mostly like this movie. There's only a few things in this movie that I don't like, really. But this is not my least favorite Indiana Jones movie. I like probably 75 to 80% of it, a pretty good amount. So I remember at the time, just everyone was like, ugh, whatever. So that was sort of my feeling for a couple of years. And then, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe I rewatched it and I was like, oh no, this rips. I love this. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I remember. I remember seeing it. I think we were in the back row of the movie theater. I remember going to see it, and but I didn't own it. I had a big DVD. I have a big DVD collection. This is not in the past. But I didn't get it until the Blu-rays came out, and I got all of them in the set on Blu-ray. So I haven't rewatched it a ton. I've probably seen it. I mean, even this number I'm about to say is more than the majority of people in the world have seen it. I've probably seen it 9 times, 8 or 9 times at this point. But versus the other ones that I've seen so many times. So many times.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's pretty similar to my experience. So I'd never seen it until I finished it 20 minutes before we hopped on this chat. So this was my first time seeing it. And similar to you, Patrick, I was basing my opinion on it based on what I'd heard from it, like the South Park episode, people making fun of the refrigerator scene, all those sorts of things. I knew there was aliens involved, and I knew that at some point Shia LaBeouf swung from vines, but that's really all I knew about it. But I gotta tell you, man, I thought this movie was pretty good. Really liked it. I had a lot of fun. I was trying to watch it. I mean, it was pretty easy to get rid of all my preconceived notions just because it's been so long and who cares at this point, right? It's like, I mean, look, there's nitpicky parts for sure, right? Like you said, you liked about 80% of it, and I'm about the same percentage. The ending really lost me. I felt like it fell off a waterfall. But yeah, I was trying to make a funnier joke out of that, but I had nothing.
No, that one slapped. It was good.
Thank you.
We'll add a laugh track.
But I was in the whole time, and the whole time I was thinking, like, okay, I would start to nitpick something, and I would always go back to, well, Indy and Short Round fell out of an airplane in a raft and landed on a river, and they were fine. So I'm just like, and I love the Temple of Doom, and I know it's not the best Indy movie, but I love it. I've always had a lot of fun with it. And so I'm just like, if I like Temple of Doom, I like, by definition, cannot dislike this movie. It was really fun. It was really funny. Harrison Ford, despite being way too old to be doing any of this shit, like, was still fun to watch and good at it. And I don't know, man, I had a great time, and I'm really glad I waited, 12 years or whatever, and finally watch it. I think it's perfect timing.
14 years.
Isn't it 14? Yeah, okay.
That's crazy.
Almost 15, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So
pretty wild.
This was my second time seeing it as well. And I mean, I can just echo the experience that I didn't like it mainly because of the things that people were saying around me.
Yeah.
I remember being like pickier about like CGI and wanting to take it way more seriously than it needed to be. Like, I feel like when I saw it in 2008, I just like wasn't viewing it through the lens of someone who wanted to have a good time. It was like, and at what point,
so darling, you know?
Yeah. Like I love the campiness of it now. Like, oh yeah, there's the shadow with the hat, you know, Indy, you know, the upfront shot of Indiana Jones and the music plays. It's like, oh, I love it. Love every second of that.
Yeah.
And I was watching this time. I'm stumbling over my words. I was watching it this time, and I just had the thought occur to me, like, we've spent like the last 20 years knocking movies for bad CGI. Like, oh, it's good, but this is crappy CGI. Like, it takes me completely out of the movie. But at what point are we going to reach? And maybe we're there. Maybe this is why we kind of enjoy it. At what point does the crappy CGI just like not even impact our movie experience?
Yeah.
Like, is it not a non-issue? Like, we watch movies from the 50s all the time, and when they get in the car, it like doesn't bother us at all.
Really, do you think it's that 12 to 14 year threshold? You know what I mean?
I wonder if we're
at this
there.
Point,
where it's like,
who cares? It's like, oh, it's old. Like, it's supposed to look bad. You know what I mean?
I think people going into that movie, since the other three are so practical, and you can like tell that they are like, oh, they had to fly to frickin' Tunisia for this or whatever. You know, like you know that they're actually there. And then, I mean, pretty much up until the last half hour of this movie, it's like they're in real places for the most part. And then once they get to the temple, that's when it's like starts and the jungle chase. But apart from that, it looks pretty much fine, I think. But I think people were so used to like feeling the tactileness of those movies that it's the same thing with the prequels to an extent. I think some people, although maybe they were more excited for it at the time because it was so new and so fresh for that. But yeah, I think that probably contributed to it a lot.
Totally. I've also, like, my feelings with this have kind of gone the same with the prequels too, whereas like we watched the original Star Wars movies, like, yeah, they're Muppets and we can tell they're practical, but like we're fine with it. And now I'm at the point with CGI, it's like, yeah, it's bad CGI, but I'm on board. This is cool.
Yeah.
So I want to segue into our elevator pitch.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Which is essentially, to those of you not familiar with this segment, it's you're stuck on an elevator with a stranger. You've got the movie up on your phone and you're trying to talk them into seeing the movie. What scene are you showing them to convince them to give this movie a shot? Patrick, what are you showing them?
I have an answer. I didn't even need to think about it. It was the immediate answer. It's the fridge scene. That whole scene in the 50s when he goes to that town. Can I swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah,
please.
It fucking rules.
Sorry, Steve.
So good.
It rules. It's the best scene in. You know what? I'll say this. It's one of my top scenes in any Indiana Jones movie. I would put it probably top 3 scenes in an Indiana Jones movie. The set deck is awesome. The music is great. Just the design of everything rules. Yeah. And you know what? I think people should not be allowed to complain about Indiana Jones movies. When in the first movie, they're like, God exists. And then in the second movie, they're like, oh, we can pull out this heart and it's still beat. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, who cares? Right. Like, it's all fine. None of it matters. Yeah. And I am nervous that people are going to complain about this next one if the stuff that the rumors that are out there end up being true. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to spoil anybody's stuff. But it's the same thing where it's like, oh, it's a crazy premise. And you're like, yeah, but all of these movies are insane. So, like, just go with it. Who cares that he survives in the fridge? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let it have fun. The scene rules. And if you don't want to watch it after that, like, you're not going to like these movies. That's my take.
I'm 100% on your side here. Like,
same.
I was waiting for the fridge scene because I'm like, okay, this is like the one thing I know about the movie: the fridge scene, the swinging scene, and like, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be bad, and I was like, wait, this kind of fucking rules. Like, like you said, like it looks really cool. Like that little town is fun, and it's like a cool little twist. You can kind of see it coming.
Sure,
I guess because you kind of know like whatever, but it's still fun, you know. And like it doesn't look. One thing I appreciate about this movie that I think got a lot of criticism before is that it's like trying to do something new with Indiana Jones, right? It's like, okay, we found the Holy Grail, we found Halima or whatever, you know, like, okay, what's next? Let's find El Dorado. Like, there's aliens involved. Like, they're trying to make it not modern necessarily, but just like, what else could you possibly do with Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
And you could argue maybe they took that a little too far, but this scene, like, it doesn't look like Indiana Jones. It's all colorful, it's neon, it's whatever, but it's still very much in the same tone and world, and it's just, I don't know, it is really cool. I thought it was really clever and way more fun than people gave it credit for.
Something I also want to hop on really quick, sorry about this, is you said it earlier where you think he's too old in this movie. And when I watched this movie last time, I was like, he looks great.
Yeah.
He looks great.
He looks great, but it took me a while to be like, it took me a while to buy in. I'm like, he's too old to be doing this, but
I mean, he's like 60, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
But compared to whatever he's going to look like in this next movie, people are going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, he's a young strapping buck in this one, you know?
And I do think it would have been kind of cool if he would have been more incapable physically, and like Shia had to be his proxy there, so he could just be like, do this kid, do that kid, and playing Puppet Master more. But still, who doesn't want to watch Indiana Jones do Indiana Jones stuff? So like, I'm not gonna. It took me a minute, but then I was kind of over it. Honestly, like once, pretty much after the fridge scene, I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm in. Like, let's do this. This is great. But along the lines of, you know, him and Shia fighting together, the scene I would pick, probably it's the scene I laughed the most at, is their very first like graveyard robbery before they actually get in there, but right up to after they fight the little dudes, the guardians or whatever, the indigenous people that are.
That's the best name. Call them the little dudes. That's what everyone has to refer to them as.
So they fight those little dudes, and Indy says a funny quip. I can't remember what it is, but I was like, that was perfect. Like, Indy got to be like, I mean, he's always going to be the badass, right? He's always going to be the winner. But like, you know, he showed up the young kid. He was more athletic and aware and capable than Shia was. You know, he got to be the hero. And I thought it was like, if you're trying to get someone to watch this movie, they would want to know that like this type of Indiana Jones adventure still exists. He's in a jungle, there's little dudes hopping around, and there's, you know, they're in this weird stone cemetery, and you know, all that sort of like Indiana Jones, how's he going to get out of this stuff? And I wish I could remember the line because it just killed me, but there was some really good quips back and forth. I thought like he and Shia's rapport in that scene was really good. So
you're a teacher? Part-time.
That's where I would go. And it's like, you know, you don't spoil anything, and it's kind of exactly what you'd expect from Indiana Jones, which I don't think is what people expect from this Indiana Jones, if that makes any sense.
What's great about both those scenes, and honestly just this movie in general, is like people have to sit back and remember like this is still a Spielberg, Lucas, and Ford collab. Like, you're gonna get something awesome, you know, regardless of what you're expecting. It might be a little bit different than what you're expecting.
Sure.
Obviously, they're not going to remake the last 3 movies that they did, but you got 3 powerhouses working on this thing. Those are 3 great picks. I agree with the fridge scene. It's like, I know people clown on that all the time, but like I'm watching, I'm like, this is the cool. How come I'm enjoying this so much? If this is supposed to suck.
Yeah.
Why am I grinning ear to ear watching this? But my elevator pitch to the folks out there who love ants, it's going to get really antsy right now because in the first movie you get that Nazi melting his face off. Well, in this one you get these killer ants getting
creepy
all
crawlies.
over your body.
We love the creepy crawlies,
pulling you into their anthill. Oh yeah. So I love the shrieks and screams of these ants just taking over these bodies. So I would have to go with the ant scene for my elevator pitch and see if I can get someone to watch this movie with me.
You know what was the only thing that I didn't like about that scene, and this is a weird nitpick. I thought that was going to be the payoff to the scorpion line earlier. When I saw that like a bug comes out and bites, I was like, oh, it's a scorpion. Like cool callback. Like way to, that was my only gripe, but I thought it was dope. Like I loved how they pull him into the anthill or whatever. But I just kind of wish it was scorpions, just because I want that payoff.
I want in this next Indiana Jones movie to show the guy that gets pulled into the anthill and show where he's at now. Like,
he's
still going.
He's the king of the ants.
Tunnels.
He's been living
like
20 years as the king of the ants down in.
They're like asking Indiana Jones, like, do you know anyone who could help us with this problem? He's like, I know a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also felt for Ben in one of in the quicksand scene. They do a gag about the snake and all that. And for people who haven't seen Indiana Jones movies, that dialogue might have been a little weird.
Yeah.
So I could see Ben watching that and be like, why does he want him to call it a rope?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
What's the big deal?
And
I'll say this, that is a scene I don't like because it very much looks like they're inside. Like you can tell it's a backlot versus a lot of the other stuff. Like, I don't know if it's the lighting or whatever, not even a backlot, like in the soundstage. I mean, I don't know if it's the lighting, but you can just like, it very clearly looks like you're watching like a 1940s movie where they're like, we're in the woods. And you're like, no, you're not. You're not in the woods. I know you're not.
I just thought it did. I just thought that scene didn't need to happen at all.
Yeah,
I was like,
I agree.
why did this even happen? Like, just tell them in the truck.
Sure.
It cuts to there in the truck and like, I don't know. I guess there was some setup, but it was just like, that was one of my nitpicks. But then again, I'm just like, who cares? It's still fun.
Sure.
They're in quicksand.
Sure. Yeah.
I couldn't help when they did the reveal in the back of the truck, which I thought was kind of funny because it was like kind of hurried and like Indiana's reaction to this was kind of odd. But like when she reveals that like Mutt is his son, like his reaction is like, oh, he should go back to school. But I thought of how funny that would be if like in The Force Awakens, like Han Solo didn't know that Ben Solo was his son. And like
he should go back to school.
Yeah.
the Jedi school.
There's like a similar situation there with Leia, like, well, you left 20 years ago. And but
if they just did the exact same script, I wonder how long it would take people to notice if they're like, isn't that a scene from Crystal Skull?
Oh man. Yeah. Just picturing an Adam Driver dynamic with Harrison Ford. Yeah. So speaking of Adam Driver, we have a segment where we, load everyone up into the back of the pickup truck. We drive to Adam Driver's drive-in double feature.
I just had sex. I'm about to eat nachos. It's the greatest moment of my life.
And he's actually tasked us with the, I guess, billing of the shows that he's going to run tonight. And we get to each pick a movie that we want to show with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And so I would be curious what you guys would pair with this movie. Patrick, what are you pairing with this movie?
Yeah, I mean, this is not a movie that I necessarily like. I want to start off with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
But it is a movie that I rewatched it recently, and I do feel like they sort of go well together. And it's pretty, it's of a theme, and there are multiple people involved in both of them. And it's Close Encounters. I don't really like Close Encounters, but they do feel, they have similar themes and similar God, what's his name? Ox. John Hurt's character, feels very Richard Dreyfussy. He feels compelled to go to this, all that. They just feel very of a duo, a dyad. They're a dyad, and yeah, I don't necessarily like the movie, but when I was rewatching it this time, it did remind me of Crystal Skull a lot.
It's a really good comp, especially like for me, like in both movies, the way the aliens were used were disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I've never made an alien movie, so I don't know what to do there, but I was bummed both times.
Sure.
It's like a lead up. Someone being
They all can't be Men in Black, Tyler.
That's
they
true.
all can't be Men in Black.
Damn, as much as they might try. That's a really good comp, though. I like that. I had a hard time with this because all I could think about was Indiana Jones. So I figured, like, let's just watch. In my life, the two movies that I hear critiqued the most are Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull. So I was like, fuck it, let's watch both of those. I love both of them. That's an interesting night. It's a lot of
It's a lot of Dr. Jones.
It's a lot of the worst of Indiana Jones, but it's still Indiana Jones. I still love it. It's super fun.
I remember being horrified of Indiana Jones.
You can't say it's the worst of Indiana Jones when 3 seasons of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles exist. There's hours of worse Indiana Jones out there.
I've never even heard of this. Young Indiana Jones Chronicles?
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, early 90s. Sean Patrick Flannery playing young
I remember a few of these.
It's basically an educational TV show that George made. He mostly used it to get like ILM's visual effects companies up and running. And it was, I believe, the first CG. What was it? They would like comp in backgrounds, and it was like the first time that had been done on television to like make the sets look bigger.
Interesting. And this was a TV show?
This was a TV show. It was where he hired most of the people for the prequels, and Rick McCallum, who was the main producer on the prequels, was like the guy who ran Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and that's how George knew him, because he hired him for that.
You just blew my mind with 2 indie facts in one episode. I didn't know that this existed, and I also didn't know that there was an upcoming indie movie. I stay pretty like far away from like movie news, and I kind of just like take things as they come. I wait till I see it on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's shot. It's done. It's coming out next year.
Wow. Okay. So I've got some indie to catch up on.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm watching the little preview on IMDb about the Chronicles, and it looks
there's 28 episodes, 2 seasons, and then there's 4 TV movies, which are like 90 minutes each.
Okay.
You got some work to do, Tyler.
Apparently.
Harrison is in 1 episode. He's got his Richard Kimball beard from The Fugitive.
Okay.
And then they also, sorry, this is the only place I get to talk about Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
This is great.
You're like blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, so it follows Indy at a bunch of different ages in his life. So as like a 6-year-old, it's mostly as like River Phoenix age-ish in Last Crusade. But then it also follows like 85-year-old Indiana Jones, where he's an old man and nobody believes anything that he's talking about.
Oh my
God. He's
incredible.
Yeah, he's like, oh my gosh, back in the day, we used to fight Nazis, and everyone's like, okay, Indy, thank you so much.
The grandma meme.
And he has, you guys aren't ready for this. He's got an eye patch.
I was not ready for that.
We had when we were doing the George Lucas talk show stage shows before the pandemic, probably in like 2018, we had John Kasdan on, who's Lawrence Kasdan's son, who like wrote Solo with him.
Yeah.
And he at one point was writing the new Indiana Jones movie, and he was in a room with Spielberg, and he was like pitching him the story, and he goes, and this happens, and this is how we find out how Indiana Jones got his eye patch. And Spielberg just goes, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh man,
that's amazing. I kind of wish that's what this movie was.
Yeah,
because like the whole time, like especially so when El Dorado gets washed away by the Amazon or whatever.
Yeah,
I had the thought, I'm like, yeah, well, no one's gonna believe these guys.
Yeah,
and like I had like, why would like Indiana Jones in 30 years after these stories? That's how you would treat him. Like, okay, dude, like. Yeah. like
sure, Dr. Jones.
You got a little too into your books there, Teach. You know, man, I gotta at least watch that one.
I did send you a picture. The Harrison stuff is all on YouTube. It's called Indiana Jones and the Mystery of the Blues. And he's only in like 6 minutes of it or something, but it's all up on YouTube. You can watch that.
That picture's amazing.
Yes. The picture's
got the spectacles on over the iPad.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, yeah. So I mean, we've got James Mangold who's doing the new Indy, right?
Yeah.
Is it James Mangold that's directing the new one?
Yeah. Spielberg was going to direct it, and then he dropped out for some unknown reason. He's still producing. I don't think George is involved really at all. But Mangold's writing and directing.
My boy Steve, I know him really well.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, like, you get so much shit for ruining Indiana Jones. Like, I wouldn't want to do another one either. Like, fuck you guys. You didn't appreciate it when you had it. Like,
that's the thing. This movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, isn't, some new guy doing a bad Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't screw it up the way Warner Brothers screws up their IP by, hiring random people and getting a sea of different creatives with conflicting ideas, involved in a project. Like, they got the three powerhouses to run this thing. And
and you got John Williams coming back.
Yeah.
You got, I mean, I don't want to.
in the new one?
Yeah, in the new one. He
that's
says
cool.
It's maybe his last movie. So we'll see.
Interesting.
You know what? He could say that every movie, and I'll be stoked every time he does a movie, anyways.
Yeah, of course. I went to Star Wars Celebration this year, which is like the big Comic-Con for Star Wars fans. And at the opening ceremonies, it was like a Lucasfilm, panel where they're like showcasing Willow and all their Star Wars stuff and Indy. And at one point, Kathleen Kennedy comes out and she goes, I do want to acknowledge this year's a very big year for a member of our Star Wars family. They turned 90 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, John Williams. And the wall behind her opens up and it's a full orchestra and he starts playing the Indiana Jones part.
Oh my god.
And then Harrison Ford walks out.
That's incredible.
Crazy. It was crazy. And he did like 4 songs and it was it'll be tough to top that, I feel like.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I might as
Not
well
a dry eye.
Yeah, I might as well just stop doing stuff now because, like,
what else? Just wrap it up, dude. That's it.
Yeah,
seriously, man. Oh man,
damn, that's cool. Yeah. I would love to see these movies in one of those things where they have an orchestra play live while you're watching it. I've never done that before, and I had that thought, like, it was the shadow with the hat scene at the very beginning, and you hear his theme swell up. It's like, man, that would be so cool in like a live orchestra situation because, I'll be honest, that like got me when I heard that theme. I was like, let's go, like Indiana Jones, man. Like, this is great.
I saw Raiders this summer at this place called the United Palace Theater, which is in Spanish Harlem in New York. And it's like this huge old like 1920s movie theater. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was just like a full house. I've never seen it with a crowd, I don't think. So it played insanely. And then Spielberg came out and did like a Q&A afterwards. And it was wild.
It's amazing.
I feel like this year has like upped my Indiana Jones fandom so much.
Yeah.
When I was at Celebration, oh god, I don't have them. I packed them up. But when I was at Celebration during the pandemic, I had seen Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville. He has a podcast, and he uploads video clips to his YouTube. And in his office where he records, he has this like 1.5 foot tall Indiana Jones statue. And I said to myself, mid-pandemic, like this is like the depths, probably around when I talked to you guys last time, when it was like, oh boy, this is a rough time.
Right. We're just in it.
I go, if I ever see that, I'm going to buy it. Like, I have to buy this. This is all I want. And then it was at Celebration and I saw it and I just went, shit. I was like, damn it. I never thought I would actually see this in real life.
Right.
And I bought it and it's like a full, like, 20 inches tall. And
man,
why did I do it? I don't know, but it's
does it have a whip? Does it have like a little whip and everything?
He's got the whip. He's got the idol.
Oh my gosh.
It's
unbelievable.
Rad. Yeah.
Based off of everything you've just told me, you just need to go all in on Indy from here on out.
I think that's what it is, right? I have to flood the apartment with sand, get some snakes. Yeah.
I was gonna say something's talking to you. You better be careful. You might end up on a quest.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to get studying though. Got to get studying those texts. That would have been awesome.
Did we hear your double feature?
No, not yet.
So
sorry. No, we're good. So my double feature, I figured, I had a lot of fun with this. It is an unnecessary sequel to a beloved franchise, even though I still really had a great time with it. But I'm still going to pair it with another unnecessary sequel that's similar. I'm going to pair it with the third Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser, and we'll just get it out of our system, right there. And yeah, that's
which one goes first? We forgot to talk
again?
about that.
It's I'm going to butcher the title. It's the one where they go to China.
Yeah, Jet Li's in it. Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Michelle Yeoh's in it.
Oh yes, because what's her name does not come. Rachel Weisz does not come back. So they get everyone's favorite Rachel Weisz replacement, Maria Bello, and
she's number one on my draft pick.
Yeah. Wow. I don't think I've seen this one. I've seen the first one and maybe the second one, but I do not think I've seen number 3.
So this one also came out in 2008. So there were some bangers in 2008. You got the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and you've got Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my pick will take you back to 2008, and we'll just relive it all together.
Wow, that's a great year for me, so I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
And it's
I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in 2008.
I was going to say I couldn't tell you a single person who has seen this movie, but it made $400 million.
It's insane.
In 2008 money.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the power of Indiana Jones, man.
Oh no, I'm talking about the Mummy, Tomb
the Mummy.
of the Dragon Emperor.
That's Brendan Fraser,
right.
baby.
Okay, yeah, Brendan Fraser power. Speaking of the whale coming out,
I know he's gonna have a big comeback.
Yeah,
this sounds
big comeback.
Love it.
Have you seen The Whale, Patrick?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
No,
I haven't either. Moving on to our Rushmore Mountain, I had originally put up Shia LaBeouf. I think we actually had already done a Shia LaBeouf one on the pod.
So I think it's better to do Harrison anyways.
I agree.
For sure.
I agree.
For sure.
It was a happy correction because I couldn't believe that we had done a Shia LaBeouf and we haven't done a Harrison Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I figured, you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get Harrison himself on here, on the board, officially on the pod. And I would love to hear. So we've kind of changed the way we used to do. We used to each pick 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now we all just pick one movie to form a full Rushmore. And collectively, we're going to have to choose one.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
Well, should we text Ben? I'm sure he can at least send a text message.
How about go ahead and text Ben right now, and then we'll go through ours and see if he responds. But Patrick, what Harrison Ford movie are you picking?
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they?
Now this is really tough because there's so many big ones, and I feel like I don't want to go with the Star Wars or an Indy, just because those are like the obvious ones. But I'm also nervous that if I don't, you don't get one on there.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. I'm not going to tip my hand.
Well, that's why I'm going to go with The Fugitive.
Okay.
Because The Fugitive
that's a great
rules.
pick.
Yeah, Fugitive
does rule.
We did an episode on George Lucas Talk Show where we did a fundraiser for this aviation foundation that like Harrison is on the board of or something. It's like they give money to like fly kids who need surgeries to like different states or whatever to like bring them to the hospital. And we did a whole day of talking to. It was called. It happened in February, and it was called Ford v. February. That's what we called it because February sounded like February.
Yeah.
And yeah. And we spent the whole day talking to people who were in movies with Harrison Ford. That was like the entire thing. And so there was like 2 weeks where I feel like I watched almost all of these movies. And I feel like I could make a case. It was a long 2 weeks. Like, it was long. But listen, if you want to talk about Presumed Innocent, I got you. If you want to talk about Witness, I got you. But I think it's The Fugitive. I think The Fugitive is my number one outside of the big boys.
Yeah,
great
solid pick. I mean, that's the first one that came to my head, but it's not the one I ultimately picked. But I mean, The Fugitive is one of those ones, and we talk about these movies all the time on this podcast. Like, The Fugitive is sort of like built into your like pop culture experience, whether or not you've seen it. You know, like, there's so many references to the one-armed man. Like, It's sort of like the template for that sort of movie, and it's great. It does. It fucking rules.
It's also kind of like a gateway coming of age rated R movie. It's like one of the first rated R movies people see.
Yeah, I could see that.
And also, if there's no Fugitive, that means there's no U.S. Marshals. And where would culture be without the Fugitive sequel, U.S. Marshals? Did you know that existed?
I did not.
I did. I didn't know, but I didn't know it was a sequel.
That's what I didn't know. Yes.
I did not know there was a connection. Tommy Lee Jones's character. Going off against Wesley Snipes.
How long afterward did it come out?
Pretty soon after. I would say within 3 years. Let's see. Because Fugitive is what, 92?
Yeah, it came out in 98. Well, it's got Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Joey Pants.
It's not bad. I think it would be better if there was like 4 of them. You know what I mean? If they just kept making U.S. Marshals movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as like a one-off. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just listed off this cast and told me it was a sequel to The Fugitive, I'm in. Yeah. I'm buying.
Yeah.
I'll check it
out.
And
a bunch of the like side characters, the side guys that Tommy Lee Jones works with come back, and I don't know, it's fun.
See, now that needs a legacy sequel. Now we need him to come back for that. We need those characters to come back again.
I didn't kill my new wife. I still don't care.
Why do people keep marrying this man? So my pick is actually like I'm really wrestling internally, so I need a little bit of validation because it's not the one. It's like if I think of Harrison Ford, I don't think of this movie, but I do love this movie, and I think it's one of my favorites that he's in. And it's called What Lies Beneath. No, so it's Blade Runner, but I don't think of Harrison Ford when I think of Blade Runner. I just think of the entity Blade Runner, and I think of the neon and the blue and the pink and whatever, all that stuff, Tears in the Rain. But when I see it, like I literally was going through Harrison Ford's IMDb, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's in Blade Runner. So it's like I knew he was, but I don't think of him when I think of Blade Runner, and vice versa, right? But it's still going to be my pick. So unless anyone has any quibbles, I need a little validation here.
I mean, I'm not a Blade Runner guy. I'm a Blade Runner 2049 guy.
Sure, I love that. Yeah.
But I understand why you would pick it, so I'm not going to argue about it.
Okay.
I'm not going to validate, but I'm also like Patrick. I'm not going to argue.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed. As long as there's no quibbles. I wanted to be honest. What was in my heart. I mean, I think that's important. I mean, he's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, no, Harrison Ford. I was gonna say it'd be a fun exercise to think of like the weirdest Harrison Ford movie, like a movie that he's just in that is just kind of weird. And I was thinking about like Ender's
Secret
Game.
Life of Pets 2.
Secret Life of Pets 2. Is he in that? Is voice acting?
He is.
Legacy sequels.
Yeah.
The Joe Pesci Christian Slater movie, Jimmy Hollywood, where he plays himself.
Oh man. See, I haven't seen those little unknown gems.
The podcast hasn't been on long enough for us to like get that far into the weeds.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
So my pick, it's for me, it's hard to separate George Lucas and Harrison Ford. Similar to Patrick, I have a hard time not picking Star Wars or Indiana Jones, so I'm gonna go with the next best thing. I'm going straight to American Graffiti, baby.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm going American Graffiti. Man, he is so cool in that movie.
He is cool in it.
And I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be funny if like we saw like 9 American Graffiti movies and they were treated sort of like the Fast and the Furious movies, where that cast just keeps coming back every movie?
Well, have you seen more American Graffiti?
I have not. I know some of them return, right?
Most of them return. I think everyone but Dreyfuss returns. Harrison's in it.
Oh, I didn't know Harrison was in it.
Listen, I mean, I don't know if this is an ACAB podcast or not, but Harrison's a cop.
I mean, someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
Better him than someone else, right?
Yeah, sure.
I would say if you go seek out more American Graffiti, because it's not good, but it's interesting, and it's like shot cool. It was on HBO Max for a while, and I think if you have time where you're like, oh, I've got like 90 minutes to kill, I think it's maybe worth watching.
Did George direct it?
No. this guy, there's some story. Sorry, I don't remember what the story was. Some guy, Bill L. Norton. Yeah, but there's some story about how he directed it. Like he like showed up and they like tricked him into making it or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but they were like, "Oh, we're making an American Graffiti sequel. You're going to direct it." And he's like, "What? No, what? No."
It's like, just roll the camera. We're going to hang out.
They chain you to a pipe and
you record, you just film it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done. That's a wrap. Good job. Oh, yeah, I will check that out. I love American Graffiti.
I need to see both of them.
Yeah, you'll like American Graffiti for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm looking at the trivia for more American Graffiti to see if I can find the story that Patrick's trying to remember.
Yeah.
And it mentioned Wilhelm screams. I want to start keeping track of Wilhelm screams in movies because there's a really good one in this movie. Towards the beginning, they run over someone with a car or something like that, and he gives a pretty good Wilhelm scream. But I always love it. I always love it when I hear it. And I'd like to start keeping a list. So we'll do that. We'll start with the next movie.
We'll have to have like a Wilhelm scream score at the end of each movie that we cover.
Yeah.
This
one gets a 1.
This one gets a 1, yes. Did Bentex back with a pick?
No, he did not.
Okay.
So
we gotta go Star Wars then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
I mean, I'm sure that would be his pick. I'm sure it would, to be honest.
Yeah. Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Rise of Skywalker.
In film school, he wrote a script that had references to this movie, Harrison Ford and Han shooting first and all that stuff. So
yeah,
I feel pretty confident that he's okay with this as his pick.
Look, Rise of Skywalker is a weird movie. I love the Han Solo scene in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I do too.
Just putting it out there.
I'm not as much of a Star Wars guy as a lot of people, so I was like, yeah, it's great. It's Han Solo.
I hope Star Wars. Indiana Jones 5 has a similar scene with Shia LaBeouf.
If we could only hope.
Now here's my. Can I make a prediction right here?
Yes,
I want to get this on the record. Mutt absolutely died in Vietnam, right?
Oh yeah.
I feel like that has to be what they're gonna say because there's no world where he's in it, and
sword fighting can only get you so far in Vietnam.
I mean, to be honest, he probably. Well, I don't know. His dad served.
Sure,
I was saying he probably dodged. I'm assuming he's a draft dodger.
Now, hang on. I have another pitch. Hear me out. What if? Oh God, this is a great movie. If I didn't kind of know what the plot for 5 was, this would be my pitch for 5. Mutt joins the army in Vietnam. He's like, I'm going to serve. He gets boosted up very quickly through the ranks because they don't have enough, well-trained guys who have jungle experience. And Mutt's like,
he's got connections.
Born in the jungle.
I fought a bunch of monkeys on a truck one time. So he gets bumped up to colonel. He goes to Vietnam and he realizes this is not what I signed up for. I don't want to do this. So he takes his whole platoon, his whole battalion, and he hides out in the jungle. And then some guys come to Indiana Jones say, hey, your son, the colonel, went crazy. You have to go through a journey on a boat in Vietnam to go find him. And it's Apocalypse Now. And Harrison Ford was those guys telling Martin Sheen to go into the jungle. And now he is the guy being told what to do. That's my pitch.
Okay.
There you go.
Hollywood, if you're listening, hire this man.
Can the other movie? Let's reshoot it. There's plenty of time.
It's fine.
At some point, Mutt has a change of heart. He throws his gun and he turns around and there's Indy. Son.
You think?
Home.
Yeah.
Your mom wants you to come home.
Yeah, and then Marion disappears.
Yeah,
she just disappears. You don't really know why.
It'd be funny if they just didn't even talk about her the whole movie. Like she just didn't exist.
I mean, I'll say this. This is not a spoiler. They have not said that she's in it, but I don't see how she couldn't be.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be.
She's got to be in it.
She's alive in real life. You know what I mean? Like it would feel weird not to use her at this point.
I mean, they are married. Totally. I just saw it. I just saw it happen.
You just saw it.
Yeah, we were at their wedding. Oh, which brings me.
You saw that gust of wind.
I saw it.
I have to say, nothing has aged better than that fake out.
Yeah,
because this movie couldn't have predicted the fall of Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, it couldn't have been better for it to be just like a huge fake out and end that way. Because I mean, it would have been a huge eye roll if he had put on the hat. And it's like, okay, great, Shia LaBeouf trilogy. But you know what? it didn't happen. Harrison yanked that hat out of his hands.
Close.
Uh-huh.
I like to pretend that was improv. Like Harrison's just like, no, fuck you. I'm Indy forever. Like you don't get to be Indiana Jones.
Uh-huh.
I remember the line that made me laugh really hard. I know you guys were waiting on pins and needles to hear about it, but it's after they fight the little dudes, and Shia looks at him and says, "You're a teacher?" Yeah.
Do you remember his response?
Part-time.
Part-time.
I laughed so hard. It was so good. It was perfect. It's perfect. And that's why it ended up being my elevator pitch was that exchange.
It's a good scene.
It's a great scene. No, I had a ton of fun at this movie. I was not expecting that. I saw people just love to crap on this movie. And that was my lasting memory of it. So I was grateful to revisit it and change my mind on it on several things.
Yeah, time and time again, like it's proven to me to just like form my own opinions. You know what I mean? Be my own person. You know, that's what Indy would want.
What's funny is like usually you watch something years later and you like it less. So this was kind of the weird thing where it's like, oh, actually, these scenes are pretty cool. And like I said, maybe it's that grace period's over where like I'm super critical of CGI or things that aren't realistic. Like I love the monkey scene for some reason.
Sure,
I didn't even care.
It was great.
It's fun. It's way fun. Monkeys.
They were fighting with him. They weren't like.
Yeah.
Somehow he just like has. He can speak to the monkeys.
Let's say you get thrown from a vehicle and you land in some vines with some monkeys and they start swinging. What are you going to do?
You're going to swing.
Exactly.
You have no choice.
People are saying it's not realistic. You're going to swing with them.
Yeah.
I do want to say I am, and this is a genuine moment from Patrick right now. I'm truly so happy that you guys had a good time because I was spending the entire day getting psyched up to be like, you're going to have to fucking go in there and defend it. You're going to be the guy going in being like, no, this movie's good. You guys are wrong. Mutt's a character you're not supposed to like, and that's why people don't like him. People don't understand the difference between when they're not supposed to like a character and when they are supposed to like a character. I was so ready. I was all ready.
Oh, okay. Well, so let's use this energy. What was the thing you thought you were going to have to defend the most? And just pretend that I made the argument that you have to fight against.
Sure. I think it's the Mutt thing. And I feel like Mutt is usually the argument that people make. And it's, you're not supposed to like him. He's supposed to be a shithead. You know what I mean? Like he's supposed to be like a 50s greaser shithead. And people were like, "Oh, I don't like Mutt," and it's like, "Yeah, no, that's what they're setting up."
Yeah,
Indy doesn't really like him either. Like that's the whole thing. So I don't know. I feel like that's always the argument. People will be like, "Oh, Shia LaBeouf," and I'm like, I think he's fine in the movie. I think those first couple scenes, like riding the bike through the college, is really fun with them. And I don't know. That's always, yeah. I listen, and I'm not going to defend some of the dodgy stuff at the end, or even my other big thing is that I think John Hurt's character is very confusing, and I sort of think it's confusing that they're like, oh, you remember Marion's dad? He was like your professor that you spent a lot of time with. Well, this isn't him. This is like his friend who you also knew. And they just remind you of all that stuff. And I'm like, just make it Marion's dad. And it becomes so much like less complicated. That's like my other kind of gripe with this movie is it gets a little plot heavy for a movie that I think should be a little bit simpler to follow.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, I guess once he's rid of the crystal skull, he's normal again.
But that takes so long.
Yeah, but it's like
it's almost the whole movie. Yeah,
it's I don't know. It was a little weird, but again, like I don't know, man. You gotta have a crazy guy lead you to the jungle, or else.
Of course, yeah.
Or else, what kind of movie are we watching here?
So I watched this, yesterday through the lens of Shia LaBeouf's already fallen off the earth at this point. He's not going to have a huge role in Indiana Jones going forward, the way that you would have thought that he might have after this movie.
Yeah,
and I can't help but
his
think
son
that
for crying out loud.
Right. And it reminded me of sort of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies that I didn't love when they first came out. And it wasn't that they weren't good or that I didn't like Andrew Garfield, but I was just like kind of bummed because like I loved Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Yeah. And so it's like, oh, why do I have to have this guy? But now with the newest Spider-Man, it's like, oh wait, we can have all of these guys.
Yeah,
and
all of them.
It makes those other Andrew Garfield movies way better because like I can have all of them. And so I kind of feel that way with Shia LaBeouf, where it's like in 2008, maybe we sort of felt like we were stuck with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
And so even though we didn't like his character, just the idea of Indiana Jones continuing with him was just like maybe sort of a bummer. Whereas now it's like, that's absolutely not going to happen. So cool.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Big deal.
Is there anything else about this movie that we need to cover before we peace out?
Oh, I just love the maps. I love every time I see it. I wish more movies did it. I wish every movie did it in their own way. They had their own little map and, iconography and all that stuff. I just dig it. I think it's great. I get so happy every time I see it.
Yeah, it's a great call out.
I think it's got a lot of good side characters and like character actors who pop in for one scene. You get like the Jim Broadbents, the like Alan Dales, Neil Flynn's. Like there's a bunch of people who show up and are really fun and just like bring a lot of gravity to it. We haven't talked at all about Ray Winstone or Cate Blanchett.
That's true.
Yeah.
Two like pretty major parts of this movie.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't get over that. I just kept seeing his character in The Departed. So I just like, I don't know, and I kind of was like, I don't know. That was one of the parts. Ray Winstone's character in particular was one of the things I think we could lose from the movie. It's like why? Like we just don't.
Yeah.
Cate Blanchett is awesome. Why would you ever take the screen from her? Why would you ever want the camera competing with anyone else when she's on screen? Right? Like, I don't need to have him triple and quadruple cross Indy a million times.
Yeah, I do think it's
so. He was
funny.
like the most forgettable part for me.
I do think it's funny when he does that, like the triple, quadruple, whatever. But I don't think it's worth it for the rest of the movie. You know what I mean? Like you could lose him, and like his like sidekick, you already have Shia. Like you don't need another, and you have Marion.
Right.
Like you don't need all of these sidekicks that gets, and you have Ox. Like there's so many like characters who are kind of filling that like kind of funny sidekick role. Cate Blanchett's great though in it.
Yeah, I thought she was great. And I did want to say, like, with her character in The Russians, I just love these type of movies that they use like geopolitical enemies as like the main bad guy. That's just fun to me. You don't get that as much like in like contemporary adventure stories. So it's fun to go back to the 50s where it's like, no, Russia is the bad guy.
Yeah,
period.
you get like Top Gun Maverick, where they're like, I don't know, these bad guys. We're not going to tell you who they are.
Exactly.
It could be anybody.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the Russians and the Nazis.
Yeah.
Nazis are still bad in the 50s. I too am relieved. I think Ben maybe, I would guess, probably enjoyed this movie the least. If I'm just to guess, but of course he's not here, so to defend himself, so I'm left guessing. But I'm pleasantly surprised that we all had a favorable experience with this. I enjoyed it. You should definitely check it out. I've been a broken record about this, but it's Spielberg, it's George Lucas, it's Harrison Ford. It's hard to ruin that recipe, and this movie doesn't. So check it out. Thanks for listening. Patrick, thanks again for joining us. If you want to remind people one more time where they can find you.
Yeah, for the next couple days, you can find me on Twitter, I guess, at Patrick Cotnoir. You can also find me on Instagram, hopefully for longer, at Cotnoir.
Are you verified right now on Twitter?
No.
No? Okay.
No, and I'm not paying that $8.
Yeah,
but by the time this episode comes out, Twitter might not be a thing anymore.
Kids may not even know what Twitter is by the time they're listening to this episode.
It's possible.
If you were born after the year 2018 and you're listening to this in the future, look it up. I don't know. Google it.
Yeah, it used to. It was like TikTok with words. I don't know.
Yeah. You can do those. You can George Lucas Talk Show. I don't know. I'm doing other stuff too. You can find it. It's all out there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back, and we will catch you all next time.
And I thought to myself today, Harrison Ford must have some cool, memorabilia from the Indiana Jones movies. You must have kept something. You've kept a bullwhip, haven't you? You've kept a hat, something that's worth $1 billion right now.
No. I don't keep any of this stuff. I don't want all that crap around my house.
You don't want that crap around your house?
No, I mean, I don't need all that. I'm a very rich man.